What would you do if the air in the room suddenly felt too full to breathe, but no one had said a word? He was sitting quietly, glass in hand, when I asked him to wait there for a moment. I didn't explain why. I didn't need to. The room felt heavier as I crossed to the hallway. When I opened the door, she stepped inside without a word. And from the look on her face, she looked completely sure of herself. Before we dive in, if you've been here before, don't forget to like and subscribe. You know it helps. And if you're new, welcome. This is a good one to start with. Thanks for being here. Now, let's begin. His glass was nearly empty, the last sip swirling lazily at the bottom, catching stray lines of lamplight as it moved. I stood behind him, my palms resting lightly on his shoulders, thumbs resting gently on the fabric of his shirt. He didn't flinch. He was used to this. My touch had always come with warmth, not surprise, but tonight it was both. I leaned in until I was close enough to speak softly near his ear. "Don't move," I said quietly. He froze exactly as I hoped he would. One hand still wrapped around the glass, his back straightening just slightly as he adjusted. I let the silence stretch, letting my hands drop to my sides as I stepped away, letting the absence of contact speak for itself. He didn't turn. He didn't ask. He just breathed quietly and still. The air between us felt tighter with each step I took. The room dim, holding its breath. My heels whispered across the wooden floor, softened by the rug beneath. The soft sound of my steps was the only thing I could hear. I reached the hallway door, the one we never closed completely. Tonight, I had my fingers wrapped around the handle. I paused just long enough to feel the tension rise, then pulled it open. She was already there. Her coat was still closed, but it looked like she hadn't bothered to adjust it fully. Her stance was easy, as if she hadn't been waiting, but simply arrived the moment I needed her. That same effortless confidence, the same gentle certainty I remembered from the first time we met when this was still just an idea we laughed about over drinks. Seeing her again pulled something tight in my chest. It stirred something familiar, a memory, a certainty. Now she stepped inside, silent. She unfastened her coat slowly, one button at a time. She took it off and hung it by the door like she'd done it 100 times before, like she belonged here. He hadn't turned. He didn't need to. She didn't speak to him. She just looked. A small smile pulling at the corner of her mouth. I returned without a sound and lowered myself beside him, close enough that the length of our arms brushed. I crossed my legs slowly, the hem of my skirt shifting against my skin, catching the light breeze that slipped under the fabric. My hand found the cushion beside his, not touching, but near. We said nothing. We didn't have to because the second she smiled, he realized what this was and why I'd asked him to stay still. She moved first, not toward him, not yet, but behind the couch, her steps silent against the rug, her fingertips traced the edge as she passed behind his shoulders. He didn't turn his head. I could see how much effort it took for him to stay still. Good. She moved beside me, her hand resting briefly behind him. She leaned in close, pausing just beside my cheek, more like a pause that asked permission without saying a word. I didn't answer. I only turned slightly, aware of how close she was. Then she looked at him for the first time. Direct, steady, unblinking. It wasn't hunger. It was certainty. She was letting him feel it now. That this moment involved him, even if it hadn't begun with him. I placed my hand on his knee, steady and calm, a quiet anchor. "Just relax," I said gently. His legs shifted slightly. Still, she didn't move to him. Instead, she lowered herself beside us with quiet composure. She settled quietly onto the rug, her posture composed, her gaze unbroken. One hand rose slowly with quiet purpose and found his. She didn't pull. She just held. A connection drawn in silence. His fingers closed around hers without hesitation. I reached for his other hand. I guided his hand to rest on my leg. The warmth that bloomed wasn't his. It came from something I couldn't quite explain. He was caught now between us. She laced her fingers into his. I stayed close beside him. And all around us, the silence thickened. Not awkward, not hesitant, just full. With her free hand, she tucked her hair behind one ear. Smooth and calm. Her eyes never left his. She was close enough now that he couldn't look away. I watched his throat move as he swallowed, his gaze flicking from her to me and back again, like he was trying to track something that had already overtaken him. This was the moment, just before everything changed. And right before I tell you what she did next, take a second, like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss these moments. Trust me, you're going to want to know what happens next. She reached up, slow and deliberate, and unclasped one earring, then the other. Each made a soft, perfect click as it touched the table beside him. She wasn't dressing down, she was preparing. She leaned forward, no announcement, no warning, and adjusted the collar of her blouse. She smoothed the front of the fabric with care. She adjusted the sleeve at her wrist. Each movement landed quietly in the still room, deliberate, certain. Her hands moved with calm intention, but her eyes never left his. She wasn't watching her fingers. She was watching him. His breathing grew uneven. I didn't need to look to feel it. My hand rested gently on his shoulder. The quiet between us held steady. He still hadn't moved, but his attention had shifted. She parted the blouse just enough to show the fabric beneath. She didn't remove it. She didn't have to. The meaning was already clear. Then, without pause or flourish, she turned and touched her forehead to mine softly. Her movements were calm and deliberate, but not hesitant. Her lips carried no question, only certainty. It felt like something we'd been waiting to say. I met her halfway, my hand rising to cradle her neck, not to stop her, to keep the moment from ending. When she finally pulled away, I could hear him exhale, a quiet breath he hadn't realized he was holding.